Hey there, folks. This is Johnny, little Johnny Seipel, coming at you on this kind of a beautiful day. A little rainy, but still nice outside here in Tyler, Texas. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you all are doing well in the midst of all these changing, rearranging things that are happening all around us, all around you, around me, in this world. But that's life, isn't it? That's why we're here, right? To look at it and to steer completely clear of it and not participate. Is that why we're here? Hardly. So anyway, today on this Saturday afternoon, I thought we would take a few minutes to let me encourage you about you, about how valuable you are as a human being, as a created being, as a free moral agent. You were created in God's image, therefore you're free. You connect that? Anybody that says otherwise doesn't understand basic life. So there are a lot of people that don't want you to have that kind of freedom because they think they benefit from that. So their motivation is not for you, whether I'm speaking about politics or religion in a sense, and a lot of other things we could talk about. Obsessions. Okay. You are worthy to God, and therefore you are most worthy to me and to others that have an adult, mature mindset. See, I just called myself an adult and mature. So, put that in your pipe and would you please smoke it? Okay, thank you. Seriously, and that was serious. I was serious about that. Secondly, let me encourage you to be really self-aware during these days. Be self-aware. And by being self-aware, that does not mean selfish. In fact, it means kind of the opposite of that in a real sense. Being self-aware means you are not only aware of your being and who you are, but you project that out and you receive other things that come towards you, and you're able to integrate that into your self-awareness. Does that make sense? Therefore, you become integrated with the happenings and the people and the events around you. Not that anything controls you, simply that you are aware. You don't become an island. You don't become closed off. If you are, then address that. Why am I closed off? Living in pain, or, well, just other things we've talked about, living in, it could be a habit. So just address it. Because you're an adult, right? And adults address things maturely. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. And it's not always easy, but it's wonderful in the long run, for you will gain even more freedom from that. And with that freedom comes a deeper understanding of how to act and how to be. Again, you just have to think about these things. Receive them if you can, if you will, or put them on the back burner until later. About 4 years ago, I was on the road. My passport was full. So as I traveled from Peru into Bolivia, across Lake Titicaca, I always love saying that, I went and I got to the border of Bolivia. Passport was full. Thought I could work my way in, and they said no. So I kept working with them. I knew the laws. I knew the situation. I've crossed hundreds of borders in my lifetime. And so 3 of them said no. It was the policeman, it was the military guy there, and the agent, the immigration agent. And they said no. So I visited Talk, showed them what I knew, showed them the situation, how they could handle it. I'm showing them how they could add a page. In other words, with a stapler that I knew that they'd done that years in my past and all this. And finally, they let me in. Went to La Paz, which is the capital of Bolivia, big city, 11,000 feet or something like that. So it was like, ooh, hello. Dealing with that, went to the U.S. Embassy, made an appointment, went to the U.S. Embassy in La Paz, showed them my full passport. They said, we can work with you in this. It'd take a week to 10 days to get a new one sent down. Can we send it to you? And I go, no, I'll just stick around if that's okay. They said yes, which good job on La Paz Embassy official that did that for me. And he says, I'll just email you and you can come and pick it up. And I went, thank you so much. He appreciated that I was just a traveler, and he's going to work with me in that. Tax dollars at work in a good way. Gotta love that. How unusual. So here's the thing. See my notes? Before we get to the event that I'm going to talk about, and then just an application, and then we're done. You remember back in 1990? Sure you do. Very somber, heartbreaking event happened in Colorado at Columbine. You remember the Columbine high school shootings? The 2 guys that went in and started shooting up students. Anyway, remember, and then they committed suicide. I'm not going to give their names, but it happened in a total of 12 students, and 1 teacher was killed, plus the 2 that committed suicide, so 15 total. But they murdered 13 people and wounded like 22 or 23 or 24 other people. One of the people that was wounded, his name was Mark Taylor. And as he was bending over, maybe trying to dodge the people screaming, because they heard some popping, and at first he thought, among others, that it was these guys coming in pointing out it was paintball guns. First, because that was big. And obviously it wasn't. So anyway, Mark Taylor was there, and he's one of the first ones to be shot, so he ends up getting shot. Not once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, but he is shot 7 times. When he shot the first time and the bullet hits him, he said, "Oh, God, help me," as he went to the floor. And he was shot 6 more times. Bullets everywhere. He's hit him in the back 2 or 3 times, in the front twice, in the leg, in the thigh, 7 times. And he lived. Yes. And he lived. I didn't know all this, of course, at the time, or up until 4 years ago, about Mark Taylor. Because I go out for lunch one day from my hotel, and I'm just hanging out, going to Cuban restaurants and reading and writing and visiting strange places and having tea and conversations with the folk around town and just doing my normal exploratory surgeries of life. And I wanted lunch, and 2 blocks from where I was staying at the hotel was a place called the English Pub. So I went into the English Pub, been in there a few times already, and had a few beers, and I went in there and met some folks and got in conversations and just talked about life and love, sports, all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff about considering truth. Is truth a person? I am the truth, somebody said. Things like that, along with having laughing, telling jokes. It's in the conversation at different points in time, just like real life. Okay, remember, I'm not religious, but I talk about the ideas of relational truths and truth. Okay? You don't have to be a religious person to do that. There is a difference. Remember that. Keep trying to express that to you guys out there. You know this. Jesus had his conflicts, and they were always with the religious folk, those that said, this is what God wants you to do, and this is how you do it, and this is the way you do it, and I could quote you a verse that says, you do it this way. Jesus says, you don't get what's going on here, do you, about heart and soul, about faith, and about... There I see. I went and I just did that again. I wasn't planning to do that. So anyway, you know where I'm coming from a little bit. So I went to the English pub, back to the English pub, and I was getting a lunch to go, a chicken sandwich. And while I was in there, 3 guys came out of a kind of a side room, started to walk past. I was talking, I heard them speaking American English, you know, American. So as they walked by, I went, hey, gentlemen. And they stopped and went, hey. So I just ordered my to-go stuff. And so we started visiting like you do on the road. You just started talking. Like here I am in La Paz, Bolivia. And 3 guys walk through that are from the States. Okay, 2 of them are in their 60s. One of them looks in his 30s. Late 30s or something like that. So we start talking. These 2 guys, the 2 older guys are just jabbering away. Me. They're just jabbering. They're just, you know, like this and I'm like this. And they, after 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, okay. And I keep glancing at the other person that's there. And this person is just sort of a little bit out of it, just kind of looking around, not engaged with the quick conversation that we had going on. So one of the guys says, you know, this is our friend Mark Taylor. You just heard that name. I was like, okay. He goes, do you remember about Columbine? I went, yes. I went to they said, yeah. I said, I'm very familiar with the Columbine story. I'm a retired public high school teacher. Okay. In a minority school, and there's lots of action in those kinds of schools as well. You know, at John Tyler High School where I taught, you know that Todd Henry, a friend of mine, was killed at John Tyler High School. Remember, he was knifed in the heart, classroom above me. You know, so I mean, I understand, plus my travels, but I understand about these things. I went, oh. And I said, I don't know who Mark Taylor is. I said, what happened to Mark Taylor? And they went, well, he was one of the first ones that was shot. He was shot 7 times. And I was like, oh, wow. I said, Mark. And he just kind of looked, and he kind of looked away, kind of looked up to his right, standing there. Kind of a little bit out of it. And so we visited some more. I visited more with the guys, maybe 2 or 3 more minutes. And it was just like, if I can explain to you just a kind of a jabbering, and they were both attorneys, and they were talking about lawsuits with the drug companies and lawsuits with this, and maybe got some more money coming. So here it was at that time, 17 years later, 22 years later this year from Columbine, but 17 years later, Mark Taylor is in La Paz, Bolivia. They're traveling a little bit. And these 2 attorneys are taking care of him. And I don't have anything against attorneys. I'm just saying that obviously they were taking well advantage of the situation for I don't know how long. And they were taking care of Mark and benefiting in their own way from that. Hey, everybody's going to make a living, right? So, here's the deal. They kept talking, and it kept bugging me that I wasn't able to focus on Mark any. So, this is how life is. This is something I want to encourage you with about paying attention to where you are in any given situation. Always be self-aware of where you are. I encourage you to get that in your head and be aware. Be self-aware. Be aware of what's going on so that you know how to participate. We need more adults in the world. Adult thinkers. Good people, adult thinkers. You know, I'm not talking about super serious all the time. I'm talking about mature thinkers. Compassionate, mature, common sense people that are willing to take a risk. So in this situation, I finally just said, gentlemen, it's like this, I remember. Gentlemen. And they both looked at me like, I went, could you all not talk just for a minute or two here so that I can talk to Mark? He still hadn't said a word. He still hadn't said a word. Now, and they both went, sure, yeah. Kind of just totally caught him off guard. But you know, that's sometimes you just have to do that. And it doesn't hurt that I was a high school classroom teacher either. So there's a certain look you give. So I went, okay. Mark was 3 or 4 feet from me, still looking kind of around, up to his right, kind of just doing this thing. And so I said, hey, Mark. I went, hey, Mark. Hey, Mark. And he kind of went. So I took a step closer, and I put my hand, like right here. Not on his shoulder, but kind of put my hand like this, and went, Mark. And he kind of went, and focused in on me. And I wrote down what I said to him, just so I would get it right. I wrote it down later in my notebook when I got back to my room. But in that moment, this is what, you don't have to have anything memorized. This is just what came out of me in that moment of time. Somebody else, it could be something different. But in that moment of time, this is what I said. Mark, I want you to know that I ask a blessing from the Lord Jesus that He would grant you a sense of peace as you continue living in this broken world. I stopped for a second, looked at him. He was looking at me. Mark, one day you will know that all the pain will be no more, and all will be made new, including you and me. And Mark smiled. His first emotional participation since I had met him a few minutes earlier. And he gave a slight nod. He just went, that's all I had to say. That's what came out, and that's what I meant sincerely. I asked a blessing. So, I had given it to someone else that I trust with my life and my future. That as a child, asking a father that they would give a gift to somebody else. What's wrong with that? The other two I just watched, and I said, okay. And I just said, okay, gentlemen, my food's ready. I said, it's good to meet you guys. Mark, good to meet you. And he just nodded. So I shook their hand, and then I put my hand up for Mark, and Mark shook my hand. So then, of course, they left, and I was like, whoa. So that cut me deeply on several levels. Yeah, he was out of it. And as I read up later on him, yeah, there was a mixture of drugs and things that even in an interview they had with him later, he was kind of like out of it. So he was overdrugged. And apparently that was continuing. I don't know how much of it was his choice or not. So it's a sad, sad thing. So that's why I ask a blessing. So, getting back to why I'm talking about this, and as we finish up today, maybe. For you to see, along with me, that we agree that in today's world, we need more people that are willing to take a risk to speak peace as an adult, which is powerful. Speak hope, compassion. Of course, if there's a practical way you can help, obviously that's always included in this. Okay? That's always included in this. Every time. So that's assumed in the conversation. That if you see something where you can actually do something, then of course you will be helpful to do that. Right? Yeah. So with that understood, I am speaking about the words that have some kind of meaning and power that come from you, that reveal who you are in a given situation, that you're willing to take a risk in that moment of time instead of hanging back. That doesn't mean that sometimes you don't hang back. A mature person, an adult person, understands when to hang back, say, okay, or when to say, if I could say something, or hey, excuse me for a moment, or hi, they catch your eye, and they're like, and you go, oh, I'm not going to ignore this. Hi, how are you doing today? Or something's going on, and you're a peacemaker in a situation. There's a risk to that, isn't there? Good for you. You know who the greatest risk taker of all time is? Yep. So just be like the best one who ever was, is, and will be. Ever was and is. There we go. That's about all I had to say. I want to encourage you today. You might not run into a Mark Taylor in La Paz, Bolivia, in an English pub, and then speak to a person that was shot 7 times. But you know what? I don't know that. I sure wasn't expecting to that day when I got up in La Paz, Bolivia, in that rough country, for that to happen. Being on the road, getting outside of your element also helps you to be involved and when not to be involved. These are the days to become more involved. There's going to be great changes that are going to be happening, yes, over the next weeks, months. Big changes, big things that are going to be happening in the United States and all over the world. People are going to be upset. There are going to be people that are going, what in the heck is going on? And people to get mad, and people that are going, I don't believe this. Are you going to sit back and do nothing? Are you going to gloat if what you thought should happen happens and say, I told you so? So a lot of good things are going to be happening, but with good changes, after there's been so much deception going on, there's also going to be a lot of reactions. So why don't you think about when changes occur, how you participate is going to define how you see yourself, and how you see yourself is going to give you the confidence with humility, the confidence and grace to be someone that is able to see the deeper things in life, the things that make a difference. So take a risk. Be right with that. Ask for help with that. Ask, help me with that. And smile. Help is on the way. We're going to need you to be an adult when there's so many people that are not, that are over 18, if you know what I mean, that are over 30, that are over 40. Be an adult in today's world. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay. It's a good day. Changes are good. I do appreciate you and I do love you. I don't do this to get a bunch of people to watch these. In a way, I'm doing it because I want to share some stories and I want to encourage people. And it's just good for me to talk about so many things that are particularly mine. And so I am taking advantage of the situation. I learned a lot from Mark Taylor in that moment of time. There are others out there that you can speak to as well. Don't be afraid. Take a risk. Little Johnny Disciple signing off. Love you. Adios.